Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us for another Data Engineers Lunch, and we appreciate you starting your week with us. We'll go ahead and get started quickly. Our guest for this lunch this afternoon is going to be our Head of Growth, Eric Ramsher. We're going to be covering migrating SQL data with Arcion. The host for this event, Raul and myself. We are looking for speakers and sponsors for this event. If you're interested in either of these opportunities, please reach out to me at the email listed below. We are a part of a larger community called Data Community C, which believes in building an inclusive environment. So no matter your race, gender, or sexual orientation, everyone is welcome, and we do expect respect to be given to all. We are a part of a larger community called Data Community C, like I mentioned earlier. Generally surrounding, all these groups are generally surrounding data. You can find out more about those groups at the sites listed below. So what do we cover here at DEL? We cover everything from the ingress and egress of data and everything in between. If it is your first time here joining us, we want this to be an inclusive community. So please introduce yourself, how you found out about this lunch, what you hope to learn, and maybe what you're working on. Group rules, if you have a question, do ask it. We want this to be inclusive. We do want to hear from you and be polite and courteous to others, like I mentioned earlier, and share what you know with us. Here at Amount, we build and manage global real-time data and analytics platforms surrounding Cassandra, Spark, and Kafka. I want to take some time to thank our program sponsors, also our organizational sponsors, all listed below. And a quick 15-second timeout for any announcements you may have, any jobs, meetups, hackathons, conferences, classes. Do leave some information about whatever you're posting and any related links in the chat. So a couple events we have coming up. We have our Data Engineers lunches every Monday, our Cassandra lunches every Thursday. Please check out our website and make sure you're subscribed to our meetup group so you're informed of future events and any events we have that come up that aren't on our regular scheduled events list. And finally, our latest runbook is out. This particular runbook covers keys in Cassandra clusters, common Spark errors, very helpful, and it's completely free. If you haven't already, please download your copy because this is only available for a limited time. And with that, all our housekeeping items covered, I'll go ahead and hand it to our speaker for this afternoon, Eric. Eric, over to you.
Thanks, Lockley. And you can get that run book at our website, not the US, by the way. Just let me know. I'm sharing my screen correctly, Lockley. I believe I am.
Well said.
Okay. So my name is Eric Ramsher. I'm head of growth, like Lockley mentioned. Basically, I wanted to share with our community a tool that I recently found, and full disclosure, we are applying to be a partner with. But before we, partner with someone, and before we ever use a tool at a knot, we want to test it out, right? We want to prove it, not just for ourselves, but also for the community. Like, would we actually use this tool? Is this tool cost effective for you, for us? So that's what I'm trying to do in this presentation. So let's get started. So first, a little bit about us. We help platform owners reach beyond their potential to serve a global customer base that demands everything now, right? So we tend to work with customers who are very large, and some customers are very small, that their customer wants everything now, right? Their customer wants everything in real time, and by everything we mean data in real time, right? We do this by designing with our playbook in mind, and we have a playbook on not.us so that we can build within our framework and we can manage platforms with our approach, so our clients can think big and grow big, right? So we have a structured way in our playbook, and we have a structured framework of how we actually do things so that platforms can be to what the client wants it to do, to think big, because every single client that comes to us always has an issue, always has a problem, always has a pain point, and we want to allow clients just to think big and grow big, right? Why are we really here for this talk is because organizations today need the ability to migrate, replicate, and archive data in a secure, fast way in real time, right? Everybody is kind of doing this because I come personally from the customer experience part of the industry of basically information services. And basically, we were just dealing with kind of small bits of data, sending data out to different experiences, different websites, things like that. But at a point, you collect too much data, you collect a lot of data, or you have a lot of customers asking for your data, either via API or they're via your experiences, or using an app, or using an iPhone, or using some kind of IoT device. At some point, your organization needs the ability to migrate data, they need the ability to replicate data, they need the ability to archive data securely in real time, extremely fast, right? So the agenda for today is, what are we trying to do? Going a little bit more into that. What's stopping us from moving data? What's stopping us from doing what I want to do? And is Arcion the option for your use case? It may not be, right? Maybe whatever you have in place to do migration or replication or archiving is working just fine for you. And you can keep that in place and keep going with it. But I just kind of want to place an idea in people's heads. So what are we trying to do? I'm simply trying to migrate data using a best practice dashboard approach. This is kind of like what I was trying to do. And I was looking out for different products to do this with. Arcion can do a lot of different things, and we'll get into the other things that Arcion can do in the talk. But what I was personally trying to do was simply migrate data using a best practice dashboard without using a whole bunch of code, basically no code. I didn't want to use any code. And use some kind of web dashboard that I'm used to. I'm used to dashboards. I'm used to experiences. I wanted to use that to migrate data instead of using a console or, Linux prompts or Windows shell. I didn't want to do any of that. I just want to migrate data easily, right? So what's stopping us? Unfamiliarity with migration tools, right? There's a lot of different migration tools. Some of them are open source, some of them are closed source, right? A lot of them are competing against each other. Which one's the best one? Or having to make your own software. Like at a not corporation, we do this for a lot of customers. We have our own, like some customers are so complex that we've had to make our own software and able to migrate data, right? Or to replicate data or things like that. We've had to make our own software to do that. But this time in 2023, I was like, do I have to do that? Do I have to go try to find some tool and compare it against a whole bunch of tools? Or do I have to make my own software? Can I just like find one tool that can do what I need, right? Enter Arcion. So Arcion, which is really cool because they helped us, they helped me with this presentation, just in full disclosure. They have a really nice white glove service even before you buy something. So if you're just curious of what Arcion can do and how much it costs and things like that, you can simply go to their experience and ask them a free chat question, and they will treat you as if you are in their office, right? That's kind of the first thing that pulled me to this product. It was like they treated me as if I was the only customer, basically. So it's a real-time enterprise data replication made simple, right? So Arcion claims to be the only cloud native CDC platform. And what is CDC? It's change data capture platform. So when a change happens in a source database, they can capture that change and replicate that change in any target or destination database, right? They want to have zero impact on you, right? Really less impact. And for me, zero impact kind of means no code, but no less maintenance, less creation of software, really lowering the cost or being almost the same cost, almost making zero impact on me, right? Low latency, so it's really quick, like really responsive from Arcion servers to your databases. They guarantee consistency. They're really about doing one operation one time, not making it duplicate over time. And there's no PhD required. I love this line, right? You don't have to be a genius to use this tool. You don't have to be the most top senior data professional at your firm to use this tool. You can just be, someone who needs to do something really quick. You need to migrate data, you need to duplicate data, and you don't have time to go and and understand every single issue or every single thing you're going to run into, or, what precaution and all that stuff. Arcion, they've already looked into all of that, right? So why customers love Arcion, what I was just talking about, transactional integrity, right? Zero data loss architecture. They're only going to deliver something once, exactly once. They can scale really nicely. We'll talk about in future slides. They can scale up and scale out with distributed architecture, which I kind of like because it kind of a node-based way of doing things. And in our company, we use a lot of node-based distributed systems, and they have low latency, right? So they can look at your transaction log to actually go faster, and they can replicate based off that instead of looking into the table specifically. And they also can do things in memory to speed things up, right? So they don't do everything on the disk. They don't push everything on the disk. They can do some things in memory to prepare it before it gets to the target database, so the target database doesn't even have to handle it, which makes it goes a little bit faster, right? So they have transactional integrity again. So they zero data loss architecture, right? They can do periodic checkpoints. So it can go periodically and look to see if something has happened. If there's a failure, it can automatically restart if that happens. It never misses any of a transaction that happens in your source database. So anything that happens in your source database, it's never going to miss it. You can see this in real time. You can see like information logs about this. And again, it's only going to deliver it once, right? So it has order of operations from the target. It's guaranteed to match the source, that you can hold them to that SLA. You don't have to worry about managing that SLA to your customer. It only when the customer comes to you and say, hey, why is this data different than what it is in my source? You can go to Arcion and say, hey, why is this different? Because they are guaranteeing that, right? They also have this really cool way of looking at schema changes. So any schema changes that you do, so if you have the Arcion set up and you change a table, or you delete a table, or you delete a row, or delete a column, or you do something like that, it can match the schema changes in the target database out of the box. You don't have to write the code for that, right? So scalability, it has parallelism, so it can do interparallelism. So between different tables, it can do multiple processes, can attack different tables instead of just one process taking forever, especially if you have big queries or you have a lot of data. You may want to turn this on. It's not required. These are just options that can scale up. It can do intra-table parallelism, which means it's just doing a single query. It's just doing it on one single table, but it can have multiple processes inside that one table and inside that one single query, basically pulling the data and replicating the data or migrating the data faster. Of course, we can scale out with more nodes, right? But of course, more nodes usually cost more money, right? However, if your cluster calls for it, you can scale out with a multi-node cluster deployment. It has share nothing approach, is really cool, so that each node doesn't share anything with the other nodes. They take the requests on themselves and they return back the request. So it doesn't cause contentions between the different nodes that are doing the migration. And then they can go even higher for higher availability. So they can have an in-cluster management framework. They have that inside to kind of manage their nodes so that their nodes internally stay high available to the migration process or the archiving or replication process as it's going on, right? They provide about 2 to 4 nodes to help you scale out, right? Low latency, like we talked before, this is basically capturing every single change that happens in your source database and going to your target. And they have an SLA that says they will never miss a change, right? And so with that would come high latency, but they are doing some IP in the background to read your database transaction logs, read your other database logs to then extract things a little bit faster and capture the change a little bit faster, right? You do not technically have to put your database, you don't have to put some kind of like agent on your database. With a lot of systems today, when they usually do this, you have to install some kind of agent in Linux, in your Linux cluster or your Windows cluster. You have to install some kind of agent that's spying on your database. But what you could do with them is you can just give access to the transaction log. That's it, right? So you don't even have to give a user access to your actual database. You can just give it database log access. And I think if that source works with that, then that's all you need, right? Which is really, really nice, because even if you're doing something on your own, you usually have to have full access to the database to be able to migrate something over, right? And you can try to, after you get it working perfectly, you can try to lower the access all you want, but do you have just only transactional log access? Does your custom software do that? Does the tool that you use do that? Or does your tool have to use a user that has full access to the database, right? Like we were talking about, not only can they do parallelism within the actual database, they can do it when they're extracting and loading the data and preparing it to go to the target, right? And as mentioned, they can do a lot of in-memory format conversions. So they can actually go from a SQL database to a NoSQL database, right? And if any kind of conversions need to occur between that SQL database and that NoSQL database, because obviously the architectures are different, they can do those conversions in memory, and then the target NoSQL database will just accept the new things, right? They won't have as many failures on insertions when if you just did a straight pull from a SQL database and you went right into a NoSQL database, you're probably gonna have some issues, right? And what does that mean? You're gonna have to write code. You're gonna have to write code, right? Their use cases, they have more than this, far more than this, but these are the kind of the ones that kind of concern me, right? So they unify multiple data sources to enable real-time analytics. So we will show some of the databases that they support. They have 15 plus connectors, but they're adding connectors like every so often, so it grows. So basically, if you have multiple database sources and you're thinking about either A, migrating that database source to another target, B, you want to so you can just do one migration, or what they call snapshot, or you can do full-time, real-time replication with analytics, right? Or, right, you can just do it on your premise and run it on your own. So basically, if you have a whole bunch of data sources, right, and you want to move them somewhere and you're constantly moving them, you're constantly making custom stuff, this is a use case for you, right? Also, if you want to do real-time data replication for continuous data uptime, so you have to continuously replicate data in real time, and it has to have high availability, right? So they claim that they can do this 10 times faster than the average best practice way of doing data replication in real time, right? And I'm testing all three of these use cases hard, right? Especially the last one. They claim that it's zero downtime data migration, right? Which I love. Every single customer loves this, right? And they have tons of customers who swear by this in testimonial. So that was my first proof that they have some customers who swear by this by testimonial. And I'm also testing this to make sure this is actually true, that can you have your database ongoing and how fast can it replicate over, right, for real-time use? And then can you turn your old database off and switch to your new database with zero downtime? That's another talk, right? So their architecture of how they're doing this is just a top level view of their architecture. I like to look at this diagram from left to right, right? You are the customer on the left who has pain points, and you are trying to get to the nirvana on the right, which is the target, right? And you usually have to do these things in the middle in order. You usually have to program all these things in the middle. That is the way I look at their architecture, right? And they have made a really, really nice distributed node architecture that they have different nodes that can do these different things, right? So if you need to extract, first to extract the data from the source database, they have nodes to do that, right? They have nodes to look at your logs to try to make things go faster by looking at your logs to get transactions. They can, like I said before, they can do format conversion, go from SQL to NoSQL. I don't know about NoSQL to SQL, but I'm assuming why not? I haven't tested that yet, but I'm I'm basically in the moment of testing NoSQL to SQL, but we'll see what happens. They have the ability to infer what your schema is. They can just look at your schema and understand, especially changes. That's my thing is it's good. It's great if you can migrate the schema once, but it's when it changes that I don't have to go back and do something over and over again. I don't have to go back and program something. Then they can do these like appliers, so you can like apply different things. And I think you can also do a custom one, but you can work with them that if you have to do some, if you inevitably, I say this is low code, right? This is not zero code, right? This is low code. In certain situations, you will use zero code, right? If it's a very straightforward data replication or data migration project, you can use zero code. Now, if you do have to use some high level custom code or something like that, or there's some custom application to your data that you need, you can work with them to do this, but they already provide some checkpoint stuff, recovering data, cluster scaling, state management. They already give you some things that they've seen their customers have, but they can work with you to provide some kind of custom application if you need. And at the end of the day, you can use either, we'll discuss in the future slides, but different ways to do it. But the way I like doing it is just using their console, their UI console, because it's a lot easier to create, manager, and monitor all your pipelines. So after you create your pipelines, you can manage them. You can have your team come in and help manage. So you can create something and your team can come in and look at it, and then you can monitor it. So if there's an issue, you can kind of identify issues, identify latency issues, press SLAs, be able to prove the SLA by looking at the monitor of the pipelines. Right? Why Arcion? So they have in my opinion, they do have I've been trying to prove out these slides that Arcion worked on with us, prove them out, right? So they do have in my opinion, a low total cost of ownership, right? They claim to be the lowest in the CDC market. That I'll try to prove this out. I do like how they do auto scaling, auto scheming. Like they can look at your schema automatically and do that. They're not putting agents on your database. You don't have to go and waste a couple weeks installing this agent and you don't know what it's doing and things like that. They could just use a simple user that looks at the log table, right? And like I said, out of the box schema evolution, like why this matters, it's quicker deals, right? Quicker, in my opinion, the reason why I came to Arcion is because I have a POC that I'm working on, and what's the fastest way to get this out, right? What's the fastest way to get a POC in front of the customer to show them, yes, you can do this, you can transfer that data from that source to that target, you can replicate it and archive it at the same time. What's the fastest way to do that? This is why it matters to me, right? Your client applications and use cases are always accurate. I like that. Right? You automatically become more valuable over time, especially when you have it in place. This is now making you have the value. You don't have to get resources and all this stuff to do all these things. You don't have to get them to program, basically like most of the time, they won't have to do too much programming. They're just doing configuration, right? You can move budget, like especially when you have things from Databricks. They have a specific partnership with Databricks, data warehousing. I'll cover that later. For cloud native, their cloud native solution, which I really like. Of course, you're going to have situations where you have it on premise and things like that. But in today's world, I'm looking for a lot of cloud plays because it's just easier to manage, lower maintenance, right? But sources can be on premise, no big deal. Why does this matter? Because demo to deal faster again, right? That's the reason why I looked for this, right? I want a cloud dashboard to be able to put my POC out faster, and not only just POC, to actually do the following up services with it, right? And I want to be able to add sources at will. If I program something, I'm going to program it just for Oracle to MySQL, or MySQL to Oracle, or MySQL to Cassandra, or Cassandra this. I'm usually going to program just for my specific project. With this, I can say, hey, use that same configuration, but I want these different sources. And they're adding different sources all the time, right? It's truly massive scale. If I'm programming on my own, I don't have to worry about scale. I mean, I do have to worry about scale, right? And it would be very hard that I have to worry about this massive scale. I have to do this for a huge customer, and I have to do all this on my own. I have to do a threaded architecture on my own. Like, how would I do that, right? Why it matters is you can bring large workloads, tons and tons and tons and tons of terabits in real time. You don't have to worry about scale as much. I mean, you still have to worry about scale, but you can do it in a best practice way of worrying about it, right? They know about high availability. They really care about high availability, and it's native to what they do, right? Your prospects won't need any of the DevOps hacks to get this to work, right? Because what we normally do when we have a new customer is we know we can do it, but you inadvertently you make a hack in order to get it to do it because there's something at the customer that's specific, and you have to do it this. At least with Arcion, you are starting with a best practice. You start from the front, right? And then if you have to do a hack, you have to do one, right? If you have to do something complicated, you have to do it, but you don't start with, oh, we're gonna have to do 4 hacks in order to do all those different things, right? And then again, I don't know too many products that can do NoSQL to SQL, SQL to NoSQL. I know there's some on the market, but I don't know too many that can do that. And why it matters is because customers have these data. Customers are choosing between SQL data, NoSQL data. Should this SQL data be in NoSQL? What should we do? Customers are making those. They're asking themselves those questions, and you have these options of why it matters, right? So we've been talking a lot about sources and destinations. So if you look on the left-hand side, it shows you the sources that they accept for right now, which I believe are 5. So on the IBM side, IBM DB2, MySQL, SAP, right? They support these right now out of the box, and they're very, very comfortable with it. And there's a lot of customers on those. They are moving with beta on PostgreSQL, which I'm really, really interested in the PostgreSQL beta. Salesforce beta, the MariaDB beta, which is basically kind of like MySQL. Right, and then MongoDB beta, right? Because a lot of customers are deciding on what to do with MongoDB, right? In the source and target, what they support Microsoft Azure SQL Server database. So Microsoft Azure could be a source and a target, along with SQL Server, Oracle 8i, Oracle Exadata, and Oracle RAC. They all can be source and targets. But on the left, these things can only be a source, right? And then on the far right, these items can only be targets. Like I said, they have a strategic partnership with Databricks. They can push things to S3. They can push things to Google BigQuery. They can push things to Redis, which I thought was pretty interesting. They have a cool connector in beta, I think, but they have it on the site. They can push to Gigabyte, Kafka. They can do things with data lakes, with Snowflake. So a lot of things that even with CSV, right? A lot of things that we go through with data, they are targeting, they are looking into, right? And this is just the current list, right? Like I said, the partnerships with Databricks and Confluent and Snowflake, right? What I liked about this company is that I see a lot of the partnerships that I have on this list, so that I know that when my customers ask about something, I know that they are already covering it, right? I know that I don't have to go and try to figure out with my partner, try to figure out how are we going to do this, right? And it's just me and the partner alone. Now I know I have Arcion, who has already asked all those questions. They've already asked Databricks all those questions. They've already asked Gigabyte DB all those issues. They've already done POCs. They've already done all that stuff. And even when I asked about them, they gave me templates that they had already done. So I didn't have to start from scratch, basically, right? They're already HIPAA compliant, so they can store health information. They can migrate health information from source to target and be fine, right? They have service industry organization certification, and they're working on the financial PCI compliancy, right? They're working on that one because that's a huge one, right? A lot of customers that are, especially in the NoSQL world, they're financial customers. So I'm hoping that comes as soon as possible, right? So the ways of actually using this which is very, very flexible, right? So if you have on-premise data that is very sensitive, the customers, like, I love it when you talk to a customer and they say, you mentioned cloud, and you can see it, you can see the blood fall from their face when you say, hey, we're going to be using this cloud product, and are you okay with that? And they're like, no, we're not okay with that. We have sensitive data. We have too much data. We don't want our data flowing through another cloud. We don't want that. So if that is the case, you can kind of run it on your own premise, self-hosted, and you can do it on your own VPC. You can do it on your own thing, and it just migrates, transfers, and replicates, archives data in your own cloud, right? And what's really cool is they give you a 30-day free trial for this, right? Then I'm going to skip the middle one. I'm going to go to the right because the middle one is the one I love the most. They have a Databricks connector. So they claim to be the first to provide a pre-configured validated data replication for Databricks. They say that they are the first to do that. And they give a 14-day free trial. So you can take source databases and move them over or replicate them over into Databricks' cloud pretty quickly. I like the middle option the best because you can get signed up with their fully managed service cloud for free. And I think it's actually 30 days. I mean, I have 30 days on my trial instead of 14. So I'm hoping that's for everybody. It auto scales. You have to worry about scale, but it's nice to have an auto scale plan that's already there that you can switch between and complain about to support if it doesn't do what you need, right? And instead of making it on your own, right? I don't know about zero, but low DevOps overhead, right? You don't need an entire DevOps team to do this, right? You can get started on your own. You can get started as one developer, one engineer. You don't need to have an entire group meeting to at least do a POC, right? It's highly available, right? And what I like about it, like I said, you can go over to Arcion.io. If you just go to Arcion.io, you can sign in just with a Google account, right? You just click on like Google account, and then you're into Arcion.io. And for 14 to 20 days or 14 to 30 days, you can use it completely for free. I mean, that's insane, in my opinion. So what does it look like? What does my favorite product look like? This is a screenshot of what the Arcion cloud looks like. Again, like I still have 21 days left. I'm going to use those 21 days like crazy. Right now, I'm in the middle of transferring my SQL data to Gigabyte. That's what I'm doing and testing. So you come in. What's really cool is on the right, you can see that it says a not corporation because you can make a corporate account where whatever I do, whatever crazy configurations I do, like I said, my team members can come in and see exactly what I'm doing, and they can run, stop, review my different replications. You give your replication a name, you give replication a description so that you can remember what it's doing, right? You choose which kind of mode you want. So snapshot, which is in my term when I see that, it's basically it's a migration. So it goes in, it looks at the source, and then it just transfers to the target, and it stops and does not do any replication. Full, it will actually replicate it, right? After it does the kind of like initial, it will try to start doing replication, right? You can do write mode, which it will completely replace everything from the source to the target. So it'll just take the source and just doesn't matter what you have currently in the target. I believe what they do is they do a delete statement and they just remove all that. And then they just put an exact copy of what you have. Or you can leave your database structure in place, and then they will just replace the rows. So they won't remove your tables, but they will insert the rows, right? Then after you fill out your destination, you can filter. So you can filter between different things that you don't want to be in there. And then you migrate. Really straightforward. It's just crazy how simple it sounds, right? What's really cool is here is me actually choosing different sources that they have, right? So they by default they use MySQL. So when you come in and you use a source, it just says MySQL. But I opened up the advanced tab, So they have single store, MySQL, Oracle, Snowflake, IBM, MongoDB, all the sources that you saw. And then what's really cool at the bottom here, available by request. We're big Cassandra folks, so they have Cassandra by request. I hope they release that. I asked about this, that it's on the roadmap, but I'm hoping they release it as soon as possible. They have different, like Amazon Aurora, they have different things that can be sources by request. So if you have some kind of complicated custom thing, even if you don't see it on the data or see it on the dashboard, you can still ask about it. That's what I like about it. They have the chat right there in the bottom right. You can still ask about it, right? And then you define your source destination, and then you replicate, right? So this is me when I was defining my MySQL staging. So I dockered up a MySQL instance and threw some data inside of it, basically. And I had to, open a port, but they do have virtual private cloud options, right? But I was just trying to get it to work as fast as possible, right? What's really cool is you can choose how many connections that are like incoming to my laptop. So it was 30 at the base, but I lowered it to 10 because 30 is a lot just for my laptop. Right? You can do retry wait. How long it'll take to retry another connection, things like that. You can do max retry so you don't overload your machine, right? It's very kind of straightforward. What I liked about it is as you're doing this, they have the docs right on the right-hand side. So you don't have to like go out and look at the docs. They also have links to the docs if you do want to go out and look at the docs, but they have the docs kind of embedded here, or they have links out to the docs. But it's really cool. You define your source. You basically define your destination the same way, and then you filter out what you need to filter out, and you replicate, right? So my resources that are really used for this, of course, is Arcion.io, which is Arcion's main site, which teaches you a lot about kind of what they want to do and how they can help you, right? Cloud.arcion.io, which is really cool because that's the cloud product that I just showed, and you can sign up for that for it completely for free and test out and see if it meets your use cases. Docs.arcion.io, which is amazing because it goes way beyond just the normal interface. If you're trying to do something complicated, especially if you want to do replication, you have to enable replication on your database and things like that. So it teaches you how to do that for every single database type. And I left Untitled because if you need help doing this, we definitely would be eager to help you migrate, replicate, archive data between different systems, right? So my takeaway and my verdict on Arcion is I do not want to program or create software just to move data. That's my verdict. I don't want to do that. I want to use a dashboard. and this let me do that, right? In fact, if you want to do programming, you can do that if you want to, but I didn't want to. I don't want to program just to move data, right? I want zero downtime. That I'm still holding to, but it looks like it's working. I want good support, and our Arcion doesn't just have good support; they have white glove service. I mean, I'm not paying them anything. I'm not paying them anything, and they got on a call with me. They sent several emails with me. They helped me with this presentation. They helped me with my specific use case, all for free, right? They have the deployment flexibility on multiple sources and targets. They have 15 different sources and 20 different targets, and they're adding more and more and more, right? Plus, if the customer specifically says, hey, this has to be on premise, no problem, right? Hey, this can be in the cloud, got you. Hey, I need HIPAA, I need health information, no issue. Hey, do I need PCI compliance? That's coming, right? I have flexibility with all of the requirements that I usually get, right? And my last but not least, it's about the same price it would cost to do it yourself, right? Same price. It's about the same price it would cost to do yourself, right? So my verdict is if my POC is successful, I'm personally going to use this, and when I have a POC that I need, when customers need to migrate, replicate, and archive data, especially when they need to do it in real time, especially when they need to do it at scale, especially if they have to do it in global regions, right? And this is my last slide. Thanking you guys. Thank you for listening to my talk, and to remind you to always dream big. We're here to help. You can hire us to design workshops such as this. We do a lot of innovation sprints, helping customers figure out what they need to do for real-time data. We have a service catalog wrapped around real-time data, right? Managing real-time data platforms, migrating real-time data. We have playbooks, as I mentioned, on how to do this a best practice way at Untitled.us. Feel free to email us at solutions@Untitled.us. If you have any kind of requests, it doesn't have to be about money. You know, if you have any kind of information about data platforms, or if you want to partner with us, feel free to email us at solutions@Untitled.us. We have white papers that we're releasing with our run books on best practices. We have videos like this, and we also have code examples on GitHub, right? On our GitHub, we have code examples for doing this, right? And that's it. That's all I have.
Thank you, Eric. It doesn't look like we have any questions in the chat. If you do have any questions, please go ahead and drop them while I close out here. I want to thank Eric again for a fantastic talk. I want to thank everybody again for joining us and starting the week with us. We do appreciate it. A couple of things I wanted to note as we head out here. Please keep an eye on our event schedule. We do post frequently, and any changes we have to our regularly scheduled lunches on Mondays and Thursdays for our Cassandra lunch will be noted there, along with our meetup groups. The meetup group you can find on our website. And then finally, our runbook is still available. This particular edition, the 15th edition, will only be available for a limited time. So please do download that while it's still available. And if you're watching this video at a later time and you've made it to the end and you have questions, please go ahead and leave them in the comments, and Eric will get back to you as soon as possible. I want to thank everybody again for joining us, and we'll see you guys at the same time, same place next week. Thanks, everyone. Take it easy.